Hello interwebs, I hope you're doing well. So for today's video, I kind of want to do a kind of review for a video game, but really more what I want this to be is a huge recommendation and enticement for you to play a game called The Forgotten City, a sort of small indie game that I played just last week and really fell in love with. Will certainly be one of my games of the year this year and might end up being one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm sort of trying to tamp down my feelings on that a little bit, just because I know I can sometimes get hyperbolic in that sense, but I really do feel that this game was something truly special, truly unique, and is for anyone who likes video games, especially video games of this type, and I'll get into what it is in just a moment, just go in and play this game and just enjoy it and try to have as little information as possible. And in that vein, I'm going to try and stay as spoiler free as I possibly can with this review. And I'll give some warnings if I do get into some spoilery type stuff. But ultimately, the goal of this video is for you to go and play The Forgotten City, because this game is fantastic. Now, enough gushing about it. Let's actually talk about the game itself. What is the game? I lost the game. Anyways, what is Forgotten City? So this is going to be a little bit difficult because, as I said, this is a game where you want to go in with as little information as possible. So I'm going to be trying to describe it without highlighting certain things, because even if I highlight certain parts of the story, it might emphasize show its hand a little bit in terms of what's important, what's not. So just to give the basic idea of this is a game that used to be based on a mod of Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls game. So you can kind of get an idea of how it plays. It plays very much like Skyrim, even though this game was made in its own engine. It was still kind of with that in mind. It plays very much the same way in terms of the gameplay of it. But the concept is that you find yourself in an ancient Roman city in the present day, and you fall down a hole, and when you fall into the hole, you end up in this underground part of the city that you cannot escape from. It's deep underground, and there is no way out. Suddenly, after you explore the present day for a little while, you see that there are dead bodies, let's say. I won't say in what shape or form, but there are dead bodies around, and eventually you, as you're exploring this dark and creepy city, you get sent back in time to when these people were still alive. And what you find in this thriving underground city of about 20 or so people is, what you learn is, in this society, if anyone commits a sin, everyone will die. So if anyone commits a sin in the city, everyone will die. And as you know, because you've gone back in time, someone will commit a sin. That is going to happen, and everyone is going to die. So you are tasked with figuring out who is the one that's going to commit the sin, and by doing so, make a paradox in order to get back to the present. But the fun of this game is not just the detective work of figuring out who is committing the sin. This game is very much a game about philosophy and a game about philosophizing. You very much have to listen to different characters and listen to what their own personal views on this idea of the golden rule is, because it leads to many questions. What is a sin? Who gets to decide what a sin is? How do we determine it? What are the rules upon which this system is based? Why are certain actions that characters take, like allowing someone to die by not giving them the cure for the disease that they have readily available, but saying that you need to pay for it? Why is something like that allowed, but something like, torture in some cases could be, or not be, I should say. So there's many questions that something like, if I looked at it from my modern sensibilities, and I think this game is brilliant from having you play a modern day character, sort of let you inhabit that instead of being like a Roman character of the time, makes you ask the question, what is morality? What is my morality compared to theirs? Do I think I know better because I am from a more civilized age? And the game really confronts you with this, because you can ask these characters with your own perspective on things. Like Roman said, you would talk to this Roman guy and say, I believe slavery is wrong, which I emphatically do, but he has his own interpretation of it, an interpretation of what that means and what Romans' view on it means. And obviously the society doesn't say it's wrong, because the golden rule hasn't been broken and there are slaves in this society, indentured slaves, not based on skin color necessarily, if that's a trigger point for you, I should say. So all of that's really interesting too. The game also, without spoiling too much, the game also gets into things of cultural erasure and how cultures get erased and built on top of each other, and sort of the cultural appropriation inherent in certain elements of morality and culture and society, and how we build up our morals and how we build up our societies on the backs of others and steal from others. And the way it explores that, again, I won't say much more on this, but the way it explores it is scary, dark, evocative, cool, brilliant, so insanely smart, and just brilliant ways. And I think the other thing that I'm missing, so that I've just given you sort of the idea of how the gameplay goes out, but the other things with this is the sense of space and place that this game has is so good. The atmosphere in certain moments is creepy and scary and dark, and while there is some combat, without spoiling too much, it's not a combat-heavy game. It's more about the conversations and the people that you meet and the atmosphere that this game creates. It is just so beautiful. And the different puzzles that ask you to solve. The characters and the people that you meet too are so wonderfully drawn. Yes, there's a lot of philosophizing and a lot of philosophy in this game, and yet the characters still feel real. It feels like you're playing out like a Socratic dialogue, to use a term from philosophy, like two people like talking out philosophy in sort of a conversation, and yet the thing doesn't make every character feels like they have specific reasons for having their philosophy and have actual like character and histories behind them that would lead them to have that philosophy in interesting and intriguing ways. And that I think is, and people have certain biases in certain ways. Like you meet a Christian character who has certain Christian values, but Romans sort of see Christians as cultists at this time. And so what does that mean? And how does that influence their opinion? And it's just really, you really get this sense of all of that. So at the end of the day, I really love this game. I think it is absolutely fantastic. The ending, again, I'm not going to say anything about the endings, but it is one of the most bonkers endings, but one of the coolest and, for me, incredibly satisfying endings to a game. There are a few different endings that you can get based on your choices, but there is one, like, official big ending. And personally, I thought it was phenomenal. It takes a big swing, and I think it hits. Not every time something takes a big swing does it work, but it works here. So yeah, The Forgotten City, if you haven't played it, go play it, spend the money, support indie developers who make brilliant work like this. I cannot evangelize this game enough. It is fantastic. I want to eventually probably do a whole video on this, because this is a video that you could do a whole deep dive on the philosophy and theories and ideas and everything present in it. I could do a whole hour-long video on how thoughtful and deep this game is. But that is not this video. This is just to go play it. So I love this game. You should play it too. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, that's everything I had to say about it. Go play The Forgotten City. Fan-freaking-tastic. I love you all. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget I have another channel called Jessie where I do more video essay type stuff, which is where I probably will post a video essay on The Forgotten City at some point in the coming months if I have the time and ability to really dive into how thoughtful this game is. But beyond all of that, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you, as always, live long and stay sexy.